Hi, welcome everyone. I am Toni Aliberti. I'm the campus director of the Iron Yard, this beautiful code school that you're in. So we're so happy for you all to be here today. Some exciting news. We are officially licensed in the state of Florida as a post-secondary educational institution. We weren't able to do any marketing or enrollment for the past few months, which is why I didn't come up here and do this more often. But recently, as of last week, we were able to open applications again. So we are starting enrollment and accepting applications for our front-end engineering program, which is a focus on JavaScript, for July 18th. And then we're also accepting applications for our Ruby on Rails back-end program, also starting July 18th. So we are a code school. We're the only one in Tampa Bay. Just a quick background about us, and I see that you're kind of looking over that sign, so I'm going to move that. Also, we're super casual here, so if you need to get up and grab a glass of water or a bite to eat or something to drink, please feel free to do so. If you have any questions, just raise your hand. There's no way to throw me off. Well, maybe a little bit, throw me off, but you can't throw me off if you're up and about. So, but yeah, so we're a 3-month immersive code school. You may have heard about them in other cities. They're quite popular in larger cities like Boston, San Francisco, Atlanta, Austin. But here in Tampa Bay, we're doing a lot of not just brand awareness about the Iron Yard, but educational awareness about what a code school is. So you can come into the program with no coding skills at all, or you can come in as a bit of an intermediate or advanced, or you're adding tools to your toolkit. You might already know HTML and CSS, now you're learning JavaScript. You may have done Java or C# in your undergrad. Now you want to get up to par with some of the newer technologies and open source, so you learn Ruby. Or you might actually be with a startup and you're taking our program to actually build a website or a web application for that group. So that's the type of students that we see. It's adults. And we highly recommend that you don't work. We want you to immerse yourself and really enjoy the program. So if you have any questions at all about that, please feel free to ask me. As the campus director, I handle everything non-code related. So I do our career support talks, which most likely have a cover letter, have a resume, you've done mock interviews, thanks to Tech Systems who's done our mock interviews for us before. But we do that all geared towards your life as a developer. And then also as one of our talks, we do this talk, and it's about a portfolio. So you may already have a portfolio and it's time to spruce it up, or you may have never done one and you're not sure how to showcase it. So this is just going to give you some very key elements of a good portfolio. And I'm sure you won't be surprised, but simple is the best. That's really one of the great keys. You don't want it too complicated. And then of course, if you are a developer or a designer, having something out there on GitHub as well. When you come to our classes at the Iron Yard, everything that you do is live on GitHub, so you're building your coding portfolio every day, so you have all that great code to showcase when you graduate to the employers and whatnot. Okay, so my handle is Toni Aliberti. I love to tweet. I love to retweet. We are the Iron Yard. We have a hashtag as Tampa, and if you haven't started following stpete.net, please do. These gentlemen have done a really nice job of getting the stpete.net meetup up and going. Just a few months ago, there wasn't one in town, and they've done this great group that's been like flourishing. And also on that note, we're most likely going to be offering .NET classes here in probably August, and we are looking for an instructor. So if you know of anyone that has a passion to teach and is also an amazing developer, we'd love to talk to them, so please just let me know. Okay, any questions at all before I begin? Cool. So this is us, so excited that we're back on the map of our website. There's 20 locations across the country. Okay, so why do you think that some great developers have such outdated portfolios?
By the time you get home, the last thing you want to do is work on your own stuff.
Yeah, you're exhausted, you're working all the time. Okay, why else?
My first program was on punch cards. Should I pull that off?
We can talk about how you can pull some of your past experiences into a modern portfolio. What else? Is some of the stuff that you're doing, are you at your jobs, are you able to showcase that stuff on your portfolio? Maybe not. You might be working for someone that doesn't want them to showcase what you're working on. Could be something like geomapping, or you could be working for the government. So you can't get to showcase what you're doing every day. They don't want it shown on GitHub or like live. Also, if you're a really good developer in the area, I'm sure that you know about this, but you're probably getting calls from recruiters all the time, right? So you don't necessarily, she said, no, never. So you might not necessarily need to, but it is highly recommended that you try and refresh your portfolio every 6 months to a year, even if you're the best of the best that's out there. You want to stay current, and it's also great to showcase what you're really passionate about and what you want, where you want to go towards next. So why do you need a portfolio?
Show off your work.
Show off your work. What else? Is anyone here looking for a job? Ah, we have some people looking for a job, of course. Okay, show off your work, looking for a job. Maybe you're interested in speaking. Maybe you're pursuing other projects. Maybe you want to be involved in the community and you want to start to kind of share your knowledge. So it's just a great way also to showcase who you are, and especially the work that you want to be portrayed as and the work that you want to be doing. So tonight we're going to go over these 5 elements. So examples of work, your engaging biography, contact details, a resume, and then a little bit of surprise and delight. We'll also be showing you some examples of actual portfolios. We'll go over a design example, a Ruby example, and then also a JavaScript example. Okay, so we're starting with examples of work that you do. What's nice about, and this is a snippet of a portfolio here, so try and envision it as a piece of a portfolio. You want to have a little bit of a visual along with actually a description of your work. So usually you want to have about 3 to 5 pieces of your best work out there, and be super proud of the work that you put on your portfolio. You want it to represent where you want to go, but also you want it to represent what you want to do. So if you're just a straight back-end programmer and you don't want to do the design stuff, rather than maybe have a snippet of the front end, show some code. If you are doing front-end work and you also really like that, like the UI UX aspect of it, showcase what you can do and write about that in the description. So you want to actually have a description of what the piece is called, so what your work is called, and then a little bit of rationale and explanation as to what it is. So what drove you to do it? Why did you create it? So a classmate and I created this app designed to help people explore the vibe of the neighborhood by displaying Instagram activity nearby. So who would be using this, maybe what users and what they can do with it. And then you actually want to have it click to live in production. So if you have something on your portfolio that doesn't work or has a long load time, you really want to get that fixed up. Because if it's taking 5 seconds to load, then someone that's interested in your work, a client or a recruiter or a director of development, they might not want to wait for it and they might not be impressed. Little things like that, being very particular details are important. Then you also want to have it go to your code. So you want to make sure that your GitHub is super clean. You want to make sure that your code looks good and that's named properly as well. And again, anything that you showcase on here, you want it to look really, really good. So if you're like, well, especially if, say, you're like talking to a client or if you're talking to someone that you're interviewing with, oh, well, I just haven't cleaned that up yet, or I just put that on there because it just, this was one of the projects that we did with my partner. You want to be really proud of what you did, and if it's on your portfolio, own it and go with it. And have an understanding and be able to explain why it's on there. And then of course you want to put your tools and tech, so your build summary or your tech stack, and then actually have what type of technology was used here. And even things just as little as responsive site. These might be really obvious to you, but some people it's like they want to see that on there. They want to know that you actually did that. And some people can't make a responsive site, so be proud of what you can do. And it also depends on what level where you're at. If you're a senior developer, you don't necessarily need to put that sort of thing on there, but you should know what represents what you can do. Okay, so an engaging biography. I really love this because you get to showcase who you are and you get to do it in a creative way. So in LinkedIn, you have, a mission statement. Twitter, you have a headline. Here on your portfolio, you get to kind of explain like what drives you, like why are you developing right now? Why are you coding? Like why do you have this portfolio? What attracted you to the technology industry? So your mission, so this person wants to craft the web with excellence. Pretty simple, but that's their drive, and I think that's great. So 2 years ago, so a little bit more background here, I decided to make a change. I left a career in the nonprofit field to pursue web design. Giving a little bit of personal insight is okay, and you can share whatever you want about yourself. Having a little bit more about you makes you connect with people, and that's great. So having a story really will tap into other people. And then what's your purpose? So why? I'm convinced I can make a wider impact on the world via web applications. So it's funny because when I work with students about their mission, this is sometimes the hardest thing for them because you don't want it to be too lengthy. You want it to be, simple to the point, but also represent you. So, however it works for you, jot down a few things that really make you tick. Make a few notes, and then kind of put it together and see what you feel like is a great representation of yourself. And then also recycling things. If you want to use this on your resume, or if you want to use this on LinkedIn, go for it. And then also just a little bit more deeper about you and your biography. So have a point of view. Software design is about changing behavior, making things more efficient, and being a catalyst of decision. I mean, do you agree with that? Some things maybe, right? Like making things more efficient, hopefully. Hopefully software. I know I've seen some code that's not making things more efficient at all. But the idea is that that's, what they believe. It's about changing behavior. So, it's kind of like sparking a little bit of something to talk about with that client or talk about with that hiring manager, letting them know that that you're passionate and you have opinion about it. In my opinion, the harmony between design and development and the people behind both combine to create better solutions for the end user. I'm looking for a position on a design team as a front-end developer where I can be part of that process. So very specific. Then they get to the point. So if you know what you want to do, if you are a back-end Ruby developer and that's where you want to go and you don't want to do Java and you don't want to do C#, put it on there. If you know that you want to do front-end UI, UX, put it on there. Or if you're open, or if you know you want to be in a team, or if you want to be in a startup, go for it. But it's really whatever you want to showcase here. Does anyone have any questions about the mission or any feedback or comments that you want to include on this? Quiet group here. Okay. And then digging just a little bit deeper, having fun with this. When I was asked to apply to the Iron Yard, they actually didn't ask for a resume or a cover letter. So they just asked to send me something about myself. And that's what sometimes tech companies will do. Especially if they're a startup, they're super creative. So I literally wrote down on a piece of paper for a full day, more than a piece of paper, on a notepad, just things about me, like what I wanted to represent. I was just trying to figure out how to explain like who I was without having it be on a resume format. But this is very similar. So if you got to describe yourself to someone and where you want to go, so this is just saying, hey, they're inspiring, they're motivating, they want to thrive, keeping it fun, like how it has all the same tense right there. Those little things people actually notice. So here she's inspired, or he or she is inspired by people who love what they do, people who love the collaboration process and welcome feedback, people who work hard but enjoy life. So you're getting a little bit, obviously they're going to be great in a team environment. They'd probably be great with customers. Maybe they'd be great cross-functioning amongst teams. They're a people person. If you're not a people person and you don't want to be working with other people, you definitely don't want to include that. Motivation, so love for family and their love for me, an ongoing drive to better myself and the world around me. Hope is my jam. A little bit of humor, a little bit of creativity. Sounds like they probably want a work-life balance here. They're very passionate about that. And it adds in that human factor. So you connect with people. And then what makes them thrive is when there's just enough guidance to support the creative process as it organically takes shape. I thrive on solving UX, UI problems. And I thrive in places where I can learn from those around me. Continuous learner, We all know that that's why you're here today at this meetup. That's why you're involved in meetups, right? We're all the tech. That's what I love about the tech world. I mean, I've never seen so many meetups other than in the tech space. You all want to share your knowledge. You want to continue learning. Also, people that you're working with and working for want to know that you're in the tech field and you are continuing to build your skills. That's really important. And then also just being super specific here. Again, reiterating the point, they want to be working in UI, UX. Okay, so this is really simple, but every time I look at portfolios, this is always oftentimes overlooked. So it's just your contact details. And again, we're going to look at full portfolios, but these are snippets. So just kind of imagine these as being part of a website. You want to make it really easy for people to contact you. So this is your call to action. You're marketing yourself if your portfolio is out there. Again, whether it's for clients or whether you're looking for a job, or if it's just because you're having your portfolio to represent your work, depending on where you are. You might not always want to have your phone number right out there or your email address, and that's fine. But if you are looking for work, you most likely do. Do you want to have your personal phone number on there? I personally would not, so I recommend doing a Google number. They're free. But if you're okay with that, if you have a work number, if you're taking clients, absolutely. Put it on there, and also make sure that it's quickly linkable. A lot of people looking at your portfolio, they're most likely going to be doing this on the iPhone or an iPad. They might be in a room with other people. So if they're like, hey, let's call that person, you don't want to make it hard for them. So have it just dial right out. Same thing with your email as well. So you definitely want to have your email address on there. Again, if you're not really looking for work, if this is just kind of more standard, you don't necessarily have to have it, but you might just want to have like a email that has a generic email ready for you just for this. If you don't want it going to like your main email site. You definitely want to have your GitHub on there, and you definitely want to have your GitHub cleaned up. Something that we always recommend is, even no matter how busy you are, try and push to GitHub at least once a week. Hopefully you're doing that more often, but you might be in a job where that's just not your focus right now, and that's not the priority, so it's hard to. But we just had a hackathon here for Code for Tampa Bay. We had the National Day of Civic Hacking. That's a great way to still stay active and be kind of active on GitHub here and there. Participate in open code. So we have open code here every Wednesday where people come and work together. There's the military OSS hackathon. Gosh, I mean, there was like 4, I think, this past month, and it was like there's just so much going on in town. There's the Makers Fest, the Makers Fair, the Makers Space over in St. Pete that they do it. There is one in Pinellas County that does adoption services, a code-a-thon. So even if it's something where you just do a little bit of contributing, and also maybe it's something that you're volunteering at too, like it's just a project that you personally want to work on. Maybe it's a nonprofit that you're really passionate about. Maybe it's a restaurant that you like to go to and they have a really bad website. I know so many of those, and you just want to help them do it. If there's SPCA needs to update a website, maybe they're not, you haven't been able to get a hold of them, but you just kind of want to do a mock-up for them. Anything like that's great to do. But also on GitHub too, the other things that are recommended, just making sure you're naming your assignments, and that if you are interested in following people and whatnot, just trying to check in there. Your social. So if you have Twitter, which I recommend everyone to have Twitter if you're in the tech space, go for it. But I also like to make this point too. So if you're on Twitter, if you're out there on Facebook, people will find you. They're going to find you regardless of whether or not you're public or private. And just remember that how you're represented is on there is going to be portrayed to those viewing it. So since it's political season, I had to say, if you are super passionate about, I don't know, if you're Democratic or if you're Republican, I'm not going to go into politics with this, but just remember, if you are a super Democrat and the company that you're working for, you might not have any idea, and they're Republican, and you're constantly posting about how much you can't stand Republicans or whatnot or something like that, they might not hire you. But if that's who you are and you're really passionate about and you only want to work for someone that believes in your views, cool, go for it. But also just clean it up. Anything that would be disrespectful to someone else, would not put that on there. I would take that off. Inappropriate things, especially if it's on your portfolio. Facebook's a little bit different. That's a little more personal, but you can absolutely put that on there as well. If you have a blog, people love to see blogs. people love to see that developers are actually writers too, and they're excited about what they're doing. The other thing with the blog too is if you're blogging about just your interests in your life, then you're most likely going to blog about that company or that client that you're working for, and it's going to give them a little bit of PR, and they love that stuff. I highly recommend having a blog if you can do that. And it doesn't have to be huge. It can be a picture blog. It can be a picture blog about something that you like. Maybe it's the Bay, or it's some like nature around. One of our students has this she's a great photographer and does a lot of the nature around St. Pete, and does like a photo blog about it, and then has like a few sentences about it. And then she also incorporates some of her coding projects. So it was really neat. And also, again, it just shows that she has some interest and hobby, and it's a really personal connection. Okay, so if you look down here at the bottom, it says there's no phone number. So this is like if you scroll down on the page, you want to make sure that the phone number and the email is constantly easily accessible. So whether or not it's a sidebar, or it's a nav bar, or it's a hamburger menu up top, or it's a ribbon that goes across, you want your contact information accessible at any page that you're on. No one should have to think hard if they want to contact you, as you said. You want to make it very, very easy. Okay, and then your resume. So I'm going to just lightly go into if we actually do an entire day work, like, or an entire, not day, but like a few hour workshop on resumes. If you have any questions about your resume afterward, or if you ever want me to look over it, please let me know. Or I'm sure anyone over at Tech Systems would be more than happy to do that. I encourage you to get your resume looked at by multiple people, and also maybe you have multiple different types of resumes. And again, if you're not looking for work and you don't want your resume out there, you don't have to put it out there. But if you're looking for clients or looking for a job, absolutely. But your resume, sometimes tech recruiters are going to look at it differently, especially if you're looking at different jobs, if you're doing more design versus development. There's a little bit of a debate. Do you want to make your resume look kind of like fun and design oriented, or should it be really business formatted? I always recommend going with the business one. What do y'all say, Tech Systems?
Usually business.
Business?
Yeah.
There's also a little bit of a debate about how long. I recommend a page if it's actually going to be but if you notice, like this one right here, what's nice is it's on a website, so this is obviously more than that. Will they probably scroll through all of that? Maybe not. I don't know. Do y'all recommend going past a page?
I would say, because every position is different and what technology is required, so sharing as much as you can. I prefer longer than shorter, personally.
Yep.
At least past like 10 years back, and then it's kind of relevant after that. But
Yeah, so there's no wrong way to do it. Just as long as you get those main, like those core elements on there. This would actually be a link on your portfolio. So you want to have a link back to the portfolio. At that top up there, it just shows that she's a front-end web developer, linking again to the email, her GitHub, phone, Twitter, all that main core stuff that you want to do, the contact details. Again, that about point, so recycling that mission statement, maybe digging a little bit deeper there. The skills, having an explanation behind the skills, your tech stack, your languages, you want to have all of that out there. Anything that you have exposure to, the stuff that you're more interested in, that you want to work on up top, of course. And then your experience. So you want to put your experience that is relevant to where you are going and what you're doing. If you're doing a total career shift, like a lot of our students, like being able to put what has been relevant as far as technology, or maybe team building or problem solving, working with people, that sort of thing. And also as far as like how far back do you want to go, it's up to you. You can go as far back as you want. You don't have to put dates on there. It can also just be like the experience that you want to showcase. And then also your education, if applicable. I always say go for it. Put your education on there because it can be relevant. You never know what kind of company you'll end up working for. You might have a history degree and then you end up working for a website that's actually doing something for the history of Jazz Fest at St. Pete. We actually have a student doing that now. So, does anyone have any questions or want me to dive into anything more deep about the resume? Yes.
What's your opinion? Your opinion on
you list a whole bunch of jobs, and it goes back so many years, it implies how old you are.
Yep.
And that, like it or not, can be, facing discrimination there, so we suggest that.
Yeah, so I recommend showcasing however many that you want to showcase. If you think that all of those jobs are relevant, it's not to say that's going to be assumed at how old you are, because right now the tech field, people are changing jobs every 6 months, a year, 2 years, and it's actually not frowned upon. I mean, it's a super competitive industry, and the developers in the room, the ball's in your court. You can do that right now, so that's not going to actually necessarily age you. But if you're afraid that it is, don't put dates on there, and only pick the ones that are really relevant. Your portfolio and the work that you showcase is going to be more important than your resume. Does that help?
Yes, and a more rhetorical question.
Well, tech systems, what do y'all say to that?
I mean, usually it's like after 10 years, you just cut off from there. Because usually at that point, the technology you should, depending on the position, but usually technology is irrelevant for down that lead. So,
You don't want to tell people you did classification.
yeah, how long that works. It's.
Did I pay y'all to be here for this talk, or did y'all provide the food? Oh, okay. Couldn't remember.
Well, when some of that old stuff actually showed maybe you were groundbreaking,
It could, and that's the reality is that after a conversation in the interview, usually the resume is just an interview set. And once you have that tension, then you can talk about all your achievements and accolades for your career. Otherwise, you can do that, or you can highlight maybe accolades or have a different section for some of your big achievements. And I'm gonna separate it so you don't have a full section of the work.
And we had quite a few students that had their got their computer science degrees in the 80s and the 90s.
70s.
So that's cool too. I think actually we have someone in this too as well. And then they're just updating their skills. And just so it's a great topic of conversation. And one of them that did a lot of C# and now does Ruby and Node still combines them all. So takes client work for all of the above. So yeah, depending on if you want to showcase it. Yes?
I was thinking about maybe not on the resume, but on the portfolio, your user groups you're involved with, online group courses, certifications.
Yeah, certifications, absolutely. And that stuff is great on LinkedIn. So this should all be on your LinkedIn too. If you don't have LinkedIn, I won't get into that debate with you right now, but if you're looking for job or work, you should have LinkedIn, and it should look very much like your resume. But yes, certifications, and especially if you're learning, like if you're doing lynda.com or Code Academy or Udacity, anything like that, just to keeping up with your skills, put that stuff on there, because you can do that. It'll link right up to it. And it also, again, just showcases that you want to learn. I mean, I talk with one of our advisory board members. He's the director of development over at Valpak. He's been there for 20 years. His number one thing is that he wants someone that wants to learn and is super passionate about it. Doesn't matter how long that they've coded. It doesn't matter if they've coded for 3 months or 30 years, as long as they want to be involved. So showing that you're involved in the stpete.net, that you're involved in meetups, that you're going out and pursuing conferences and certifications, absolutely. That stuff is relevant. You do want to have that on your resume for sure.
So what would be a good site to post the portfolio?
Sure. I'll actually go and talk about that now. There are lots of free ones. You don't have to pay for one, but you can also pay for one. GitHub is the best that I recommend. Our students use github.io. There's Squarespace, if you've heard of it, you can pay for that. You can buy and get your own domain name, pay for that as well. But GitHub is the number one that I recommend. And there's templates on there too. So if you go on there and say, you're building your portfolio, there's a whole bunch that you can pick from. You can hard code your own portfolio, and if you do that, it's got to look really good. You've got to have it looking sharp. A lot of our students really want to hard code them, which it takes them I would recommend doing like a template one until they actually get it done and get it working really well and looks great on mobile. And it showcases your style and your skills, but it's got to look good.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you go into more depth on GitHub and choosing your own projects versus contributing to others. Like I looked into the Nancy project for .NET and got on their Slack channel and wanted to contribute. And it's a big team and they're moving fast. And I don't have that kind of time. How do you pick projects to contribute to, or would you
Yeah, no, that's a great question. That's exactly why like open code on Wednesday, or so, like having something to come and just like work on things, doing something on your own. But if you're self-motivated and are self-disciplined, if you've got a little bit of a team, that's also what's great about like those hackathons, because you're put in a room for a weekend and you have to push things live. Some things might be too fast-paced, like you said, but other things would be like work at your speed very well. So it's really up to you. It's whatever works for you. And I know me, I'm very motivated when I'm working in a team environment and someone else is all like I'm given a deadline that someone else is dependent on me. So I would prefer to do things in a group. And that's why we also do group projects with our students a lot too. So we have personal projects, we have group projects, we have big team projects, cross-functioning, and that's also great too because you want to showcase that you can work with other types. So you might have one where you're at .NET, you're working with a JavaScript and a Python developer, showcasing that you can work with other developers. Any other questions right now? Okay. Surprise and delight, I love this one. So this is really simple, but again, it's sometimes overlooked. It's just little things that make it a little bit, like, that make your portfolio a little bit different. So this is just a showcase of her timeline. And so what's fun about this is that she did some of her own icons. She pulled some other icons. She did some fun with the coloring, so the color scheme of her portfolio. She highlights some important years right here. So she shows in a fun representation without it being boring, just bullets, what she did at Arizona State. So she has her journalism and mass communication degree. As a developer, is that relevant? Absolutely yes. It shows that she can copyright a web page. A lot of developers don't want to do that. So that's a great skill right there. She's in communication, so she might know PR and she enjoys that type of thing. I think this is fun too. So assistant trainer for competitive horse training. What is that? Again, it's showing a hobby and you have no idea who you're talking to. They might be interested in that. So if you're really passionate about something that's fun, go for it. So then a reporter, critic, and then here she is at the Iron Yard. So she's kind of showcasing it. If you saw the entire portfolio, you would understand because the color also goes with the color scheme. So when I applied to the Iron Yard and I sent what was pretty much my portfolio to them, I actually went and I inspected their element and I bought their font. I picked out their exact color scheme, and I also did a lot of like the shield logo of the Iron Yard throughout my entire presentation. When it's a company or something that you really want, if it's a project you really want, and if you have the time to go above and beyond and surprise and delight them, do it. They said that what I submitted was passed around more than like anything else that's been submitted before because they couldn't believe the amount of time that went into it. And what's great though is that I am not a designer and I'm not a coder, but I have done both in the past and I have resources. So I knew how to inspect the element. My sister is a graphic designer. I did all this like idea building of what I wanted to showcase, and then I had some ideas of putting overlay with photography and using their colors, and I asked her to help me actually build it. So when the Iron Yard interviewed me, they asked, what inspired you to do this, and did you do it? I said, well, this is, I actually did not build it, but I had this great idea and whatnot, and I utilized my resources. The same thing with your portfolio too, is if you do build it, awesome, own it. If it's a template, they're gonna know, don't try and say you built it. But also if you're able to do little fun things like that, go for it, because people really do notice it. Necessities. Good design is good business. This part can be really challenging when going over and reviewing people's portfolios, because people can take design very personally, especially if you're not a designer, you maybe don't have an eye for design, or you don't have a background in design and you're a programmer. But someone that's looking at your portfolio, they will know within the first 5 to 10 seconds whether or not they're interested in working with you. If you don't have an eye for little details, they're probably not going to be impressed with you, and they're not going to want to continue looking through your portfolio. So that first page, you want it to look really nice, and you can do that by actually grabbing a template. And you also want to sweat the details. So like when it says, where it has like you click on your email, just putting things in the subject line. I found your portfolio site and I'd love to chat. you have no idea. You might be up against 50 different people for this position, or you might be, trying to get this job from 100 other, their clients looking at 100 other people. Little things like this, they actually do notice. So, and what if you aren't a designer? Thief, which means it's totally okay to use a template and go and grab one, and that's fine. And just don't say it's your own. I want to dive in and just look at a few of them really quick. Let's see how we are on time. Oh, we're good. So these are some of my favorites. So I guess a show of hands here. Is anyone here a front-end developer, UI, UX? Okay, cool. Who's back-end? All right. Who's a designer? Just straight up graphic design too? Okay, good. So we've got someone from everyone in here. We'll start with, since the front end is rocking. This is Ryan Atkinson. So he is one of our recent students. He was a civil engineer at Virginia Tech. He was not feeling that he could be as creative as he wanted to be in that industry, so he came to school here. And he's now at Mad Mobile as a front-end engineer. He does absolutely amazing work. He does not have a design background. He has a great eye for design, but he's also a really fabulous developer. What's really nice about this is it shows a lot of just color, but it's super simple. Showcases his name and what he does very quickly, and it's intriguing. I want to scroll down. I want to see what else is going on. So quickly, you see up top, it has a nice bar. You can always go ahead and contact him. What I love about Ryan too is that he does little hints, and this is surprise and delight, but it's also showcasing a little bit about him. So he's got here that he's got his contact information. Follow me on social media, ping me an email. Currently looking for an awesome team of developers and designers to join forces with. But then at the bottom here, he's got 3 quotes, and if you knew him, these are just so him. But it just gives you a little bit of insight to him. He's a very he's just really into literature, and he's very into typography. He's very philosophical, just really great historical. So he's got some kind of cool quotes. Muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone. Give me 6 hours to chop down tree. I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. Abraham Lincoln. I can live for 2 months on a good compliment. Mark Twain. If you read those are absolutely conversation topics, and he was actually asked about those in his interview, and that was the whole point of that. He got to talk about some of his different passions and some of the pieces of work that he really likes to read. Then he's got his Twitter and his GitHub, LinkedIn, all 3 a necessity. For Twitter, I didn't mention this, just try and be active. If it's not your thing, totally understandable. If you're not using it at all, you don't want to put it on there. But just try and be active. I mean, if once a week's your max, do once a week. If once a day is your max, awesome. I know this might sound silly, but make it set aside a calendar, 15 minutes on your calendar every 2 or 3 days to go on and update. And if that's what you have to do, but otherwise, don't put it on there. So here we've got about him a little bit. A nice picture. I always recommend doing something fun, again, personal. It shows that he's from Virginia Beach, gives a little bit about him. He once organized a bookshelf full of engineering reports to correspond to color theory. Again, really him. So he's got his resume, download a copy of his resume and print it out because it looks good. A little bit of humor. Let's see if his resume's up. Always, if you notice, it opened up to a new tab. You never want them to go away from your portfolio. Have everything open in a new tab. So your Twitter, your GitHub, LinkedIn, everything like that. So here's a business look. He could have added a little color in, but I really do recommend just going for straight business. He's got his objective. Very clearly, he's got education, relevant coursework with his tech stack. You can see here he did some intro to computer programming in his undergrad, so that's relevant. He didn't want to go into C# though, so he didn't put that up front. And then he's just got a little bit of other experience and skills. And then the work that he showcases. So he's got more than I would recommend, but he's got it laid out in a nice format. which is fine. So I would stick to 5 max. But very simple here. He's got the app. It explains what it is. It's got the tech stack. You can go to the GitHub. Let's see. You can actually go to the demo. So this is his application that he built. It's taking a little long to load though. He probably hasn't worked on it in a while. And then he's actually got it going to his GitHub as well. These should also be linking out off of his portfolio, which they're not. I'll let Ryan know. And then he's got some other different projects that he wants to showcase. Okay, so we'll look at Kyle Swartz. Kyle is a Ruby on Rails developer. He was in the Army for I think like 8 years. He was actually in, I believe it was the Air Force. He was over at MacDill. And he was ready to, as he described it, kind of he was like in a room working where he couldn't talk about what he was doing. So he was looking for something where he could also just kind of talk about his work, a little bit more autonomous. One of his goals for finding a job after the Iron Yard was being able to wear flip-flops and shorts every day, and successfully he's doing that at Haneke Designs. And actually when I went and visited him, he was barefoot. So he's made his goal happen. But Kyle, although has a military background, is also hilarious and very creative. So this is a template. He did a really beautiful job. I love how it kind of showcases some of his different work right here. Again, very simple, who he is, what he does. He's got a featured project right above the cusp here. This was his app that he built, so he talks about it a little bit. If you notice all the way as we're scrolling, you can constantly contact him. A little picture about him, so he's in the Air Force right after high school, talks a little about that. And for him, getting this to this amount of words was really hard. He actually had like 2 pages, and I'm like, you've got to get that down. One thing that he was thinking about doing, and you can absolutely do, is have like a button, so can you have read more if you're interested. But people are probably going to only read that first maybe 2 sentences. Maybe they'll read the first and the last. They'll skim it over. So getting that mission statement down to where it's catchy and quick is important. If you have something you really want to showcase, doing that drop down to kind of expand it is good. So it says hire me. Again, right to his contact information. You can send him a message, which is fun. He has his email. He's got all of his resume, Twitter, LinkedIn. This is what I think is fun. So here's his surprise and delight. And it shows his skill stack in a really unique visual way. So he's obviously pretty well versed in Ruby. I'm sure even more now that he's been working out in the workforce for over a year. Version control, JavaScript. But I think it's fun down here. He's got his full circle for 100% for karaoke. And he loves karaoke. He's really good at it, and he actually leads his team. I think they actually go and do some of those outings now because of him. So humor, surprise and delight, fun. But also showcasing what he's got. Then he's got 3 nice pieces of work. I like also how when you scroll over, it kind of shows you can go right to it. And he just gives a little bit of description of it. The last one that I'm going to show you, this is my sister, so we don't have any design graduates. She's actually, I wanted to bring this up. So the Front End Design Conference is next week. Has anyone heard of the Front End Design Conference? Have you been?
No, I'm going this year for the first time.
Yes, it's actually you don't hear much about it. It's not marketed much. It's a small conference. It's really awesome. We've got some amazing speakers coming. So it's just right over here at the Palladium in downtown St. Pete. Definitely look it up. And if you want, I can give a discount code from the Friends of the Iron Yard and get a discount code to it. My sister's speaking, so she created style tiles. Is anyone familiar with?
Created those?
Yes.
Wow.
I know.
Badass.
I know. Well, actually, her website is badass. Her old website is badass.com,
Oh, okay.
I think, or something like that. But she actually changed it now. I can't remember what it is. It was something like that. But now it's samanthatoy.com. But that one still goes to it. I'll have to think of it. So she created Style Tiles. It's a web development tool. So for when you're working with clients, I'm sure if you've ever done this before, you go and you say, what would you like on your website? What color would you like? What type would you like? And then you create a mock-up and they're like, yeah, I don't like that, I like that, I like that. And you're just like, whoa, you gotta rework everything. It's very similar to like when you go if you have an interior designer come and they create palettes for you, so you can pick out different colors and textures from each one that you like. Style Tiles helps them do that with a website actually. So you create different mock-ups for your client, and then they can pick the colors and the font and the text boxes and the shading that they like. So she's a designer. She's now at Adobe. She was at Twitter for a long time. She was also freelance, and she's a speaker. So she speaks at conferences around. So this is a great example. I like to show this because Kyle Swartz is now an intermediate. He's an intermediate developer. Brian Atkinson is a junior developer. And my sister, she's a senior designer and a developer as well. She still updates her portfolio, I think at least every 6 months to a year. That's really what we recommend doing. I mean, she like refreshed it. She did a whole new logo, and she's a designer, but I can't remember if it was her logo or if it was something else on this page, but she outsources to other graphic designers that she thinks are even better than her to get stuff done. Because that's what you do, you utilize your resources. And it's also great because it keeps things current and fresh, and you don't want everything to be like kind of stagnant. So this is hers, and very simple. She's got her about, her speaking and her work, so portfolio, but she also is a speaker, and then she's got contact information. What I think is so great about this is that portfolio talk that we do, I never looked at my sister's portfolio before giving the talk, and I started giving the talk, and then I actually went and I started to look, and I'm like, wow, she literally has everything that we have, and she's a senior developer, so still has that fun little bit about, and there it is, Toy is my middle name, really, so a little bit of humor, a little bit of personal insight, you kind of connect with them. She's got clients right here. She's got different things badass ideas. That's the website that it is. She talks about the different speaking gigs that she does. Designer, art director, solving big problems, leading teams. And I remember, I think I edited this for her. So she came to me because she's not, writing isn't like a strong skill for her. So she came to me to actually edit it, and vice versa. So you utilize people that you have, and you get opinions. And so that took her a really long time to write that one paragraph, because she's got a lot to say, because she's done a lot. So how do you pick what you want to showcase? And then I also like this, and some of our students also have this, a quote about someone that's worked with her. That's great too. So if you're looking for getting clients, or if you're looking for a job, someone that's previously been with you. Then where she's going to be speaking, and if we just go down here to her work, she's got 3 pieces of work. She's done way more than that. So she's got Style Tiles, she's got something from the Washington Examiner, and she's got something that she did for the Georgia government. So all 3 very different if you actually go and kind of dive into them, but they showcase her best pieces. She's super proud of them. They've got a bit of her design and her development, and she loves to talk about them. So she says, from design systems for multi-site publishing platforms to one-pager sites, I've designed experiences that solve all sorts of interesting problems. And then if you notice, she is extremely active on all types of social media. We were a little bit different growing up. She was always on the computer, and I was always on the phone talking to people. As you can tell, I'm a chatter. So she's definitely a bit more of really, really involved. She's a big chatter, but she's a chatter online. So she has all of these, and she's extremely active in all of these. And also, if you are a designer, recommend getting onto Dribbble also. If you're a photographer, if you're involved in that sort of thing, Instagram and Pinterest is also good. SlideShare, because she speaks at conferences. Flickr, she's an amazing photographer as well. So all these, again though, be active on them if you're going to be on them. And cute again, so get in touch. And then another, just again, having a little bit of humor, but also just a little insight. What's your favorite typeface? And then down here, she actually did this. This is her cat. She loves Again, a little insight, humor, her cross-eyed cat Grace, and she's got it copyrighted because she actually did this. The background is a picture she took of San Francisco, another great talking point. All of these things with all of these students. So, why did he pick ice sports for him? Ice hockey's his favorite. He goes out to Brandon every weekend, and he really wanted to create this app for his friends. Ryan can tell you about this. He's so deep. It's some type of style art, and I don't know, but he loves to talk about it. So, again, very representative of each of these people. So, does anyone have any questions? So just to go over it one more time, portfolio is absolutely a representation of you. Please always have one if you're in the tech world, and having that contact information, having those great pieces of work, updating those as well, and then just showcasing a little bit about yourself. You did ask about where you can go to actually get them. Let's see if we can pull it up here. There's quite a few. So website is GitHub Pages, pages.github.com, or it's github.io. And like Kyle actually got his name, so his is kyleswartz.github.io. Ryan Atkinson's built his own ryanatkinson.tech, and then here, and it lets you pick a template very quickly. You create your repository, and then you just go from there. So it's pretty easy. Anything else? Yes.
Well, you talked about going that extra mile, and some people are looking for jobs. And I was looking for one back in September, and I found a job at a place, and I definitely wanted it. That was the one for me. I stopped looking at that point. I went in, and their front page was still, their whole site was not responsive yet. So I went in, and I thought design is too subjective, so I just rebuilt their entire front end, their front page responsively. And then I went and investigated them on Google. It's there. And I found newspaper articles from them where they'd interviewed the vice president and president of the company. And I looked at what they said, and in the interview, I actually used, their own buzzwords and didn't like lie or anything, but took stuff that I've actually done that related to what they talked about and put it in the interview. And I actually interviewed with the vice president at one point and practically quoted something to her, and she just lit up, and so I ended up getting the job. I beat out like 50 people for it.
That's amazing.
And people were like, I can't believe you rebuilt their whole front page. I'm like, what else was I going to do that weekend? Like, I'm trying to find a career here, so getting that extra little bit of time.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Absolutely. Someone at the last software company I was at, the designer that we hired, did something, but he created like kind of like mock-ups, did something very similar. Out of like 10 people hired on the spot. And that's exactly, I think, what the manager, he was like, did you just do this over the weekend? And looked up like the colors and everything, and like did a really nice job. Yeah, going the extra mile is huge. I mean, especially if it's a company that you want to work for. I always say, we do another talk at the Iron Yard that's about like connecting with their mission. So you have a mission, but also like relaying to their mission and buying into it. And I just got thrown off because they walked over. But like how you said, picking up on their buzzwords and actually going on their website and like reading stories about them. I always say, find the company that you want to work for and go after it. Don't go after the job, because you might have a great job, but it's not a cultural fit. And then do things like start following them on social media, start interacting with their blog posts, start interacting with them on Facebook. They might not have that job right away, but work towards it. And if they see you being interested, then the job will come one day. And then doing things like that, like rebuilding their website to be responsive and them knowing that it's a huge need, amazing.